So I just finished watching the Edmonton Oilers play the Montreal Canadiens. The Oilers lost 5-2 to Montreal, and it's time I had a serious talk about this team. The Edmonton Oilers, I'm talking about. First of all, Habs fans, good job. Um, Marty St. Louis has come in. United a rough three first games. They lost all three, but they played well, as you would expect under a new coach. And they have now won 7 of their last 8 games under him. He has done something good with this team. He has re-energized Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield, 2 guys who looked like absolute studs for the Canadiens in last year's playoffs. And I watched last year's playoffs with the Montreal Canadiens, and I was very impressed with what I saw out of Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield. Caulfield was a real deal. And Nick Suzuki, I think, can win the Selke one day. I am dead serious. This guy has the talent to win the Selke, and he was good again tonight. So I know full well that Montreal was a good team. Uh, in last year's playoffs, this year they had a bad start, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And it didn't help that they're missing Shea Weber, Carey Price, a lot of guys from that cup winning or that almost cup winning team are gone or not there, and this team has struggled mightily. And they've had a turnaround and under St. Louis. So yeah, congratulations, Habs! You won the game, and you were the better team by far tonight. But let's not talk about Montreal. We're here to talk about the Oilers. What do I say about this team that hasn't already been said? Oh boy. Okay, well, we'll start with the obvious, which is goaltending. Mike Smith. I like Mike. Um, he's a good guy. I think he's got a good personality. And when he's on, he's on. Problem is, he hasn't been on a lot. He is 39 years old. And the broadcast, even tonight, said that he's going to turn 40 in a couple of weeks. Mike Smith last year was good. He was great. He was fantastic last year during the regular season, to the point where I didn't mind him being re-signed for another year, especially because Stuart Skinner was going to need at least another year of AHL conditioning. So I didn't mind the fact that Mike Smith was signed for another year. But this year, not good. Not even remotely good. Mike Smith has been awful this season. And the last few starts have been horrendous. And I don't know if awful is worse than horrendous or horrendous is worse than awful. But the point I'm trying to make is Mike Smith has been bad. He's been terrible. He has been awful. And this organization keeps giving him starts. I saw a stat on Twitter. I'm going to pull it up here. I'm going to quickly pull it up here. Because you need to understand how terrible the stats are. I think it's saved here. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted by other scores. The Flames are 2-2 against Colorado. Okay, I believe I did not save it. Did I not save it? What am I doing here? Okay, well, I know who tweeted it, so that's good. Okay. Here are the stats of the Oilers' 3 goalies that they have used this season. 20 games played, and that dates back to January 21st. Mikko Koskinen has played He is 7-0-2 with a 922 save percentage. That means that in Koskinen has played, he has won 7 of them, and he is saving 92% of the shots he's faced. Stuart Skinner has played 2 games. Oh, and I should also mention in those 9 games Mikko Koskinen has played, he has a 39 save shutout under his belt, and that came a couple games ago against the Philadelphia Flyers. One of the few times that Edmonton has actually won in Philadelphia the last few years. Before that game, the last time the Oilers won in Philadelphia was a 3-0, I believe it was 3-0, win over the Philadelphia Flyers in 2016. March of 2016, Cam Talbot had a 35 save shutout, and Patrick Maroon scored in his Oilers debut. And that was the game that made me a Patrick Maroon fan because I love Pat Maroon. And that was that game that made me a fan because he was fantastic. At least 2 times in that game, he took on 2 Philadelphia Flyers and didn't look overmatched in either encounter. Scores a goal and brought just this awesome breath of fresh air to the team. And yeah, so there's that. So yeah, Mikko Koskinen in his last 9 starts has won 7 games, it's 922 save percentage, and has a shutout. Stuart Skinner has played 2 games, and he won both of them, sporting a 953 save percentage. Oh, and in one of those 2 games, he had a shutout against the San Jose Sharks. And last but certainly not least, there is Mike Smith, playing 9 games, winning 3 of them. So he's won 33% of his games. I believe that's the stat. He's won 33% of his games, and he is sporting an 885. So 20 games. That is 20 games. 2 of our 3 goalies are combined 9-0-2 with a average save percentage of a 936, or sorry, 938. And then one guy, Mike Smith, 3 wins, and he's stopping 89% of the shots he faced. Every pundit, hockey pundit going into this season, and us fans especially, said that you cannot go into a hockey season with Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith as your goaltending tandem because one or both of them are going to flop. But Oilers management knows what's best, and they are now paying the price for their decision. Now, I am not here to rag on Mikko Koskinen. Has he been terrible at points this season? Yes. There have been times when Mikko Koskinen has not been good, but he has been better than bad most nights. I would probably put him at about 75-25 if I was to judge his good bad ratio. He is 75% of the time, 25% he's been bad. He has been great this season. He has been good, especially in the last 20 games, where he's won 7 of his last 9 starts. So he is not the problem. It's Mike Smith. And it's not just because Mike Smith has terrible stats. Mike Smith is 39 years old and he is having injury problems. He got injured, I think, 3 games into the season this year, missed a whole bunch of time, came back, gets injured again, missed a bunch of time. And even in tonight's game, there was a save he made, and you could even tell he was a little bit hurt after that because immediately following that save, he didn't even have the strength to push off his post with the skate, had to use his left hand or his left arm, and he knocks the net off his moorings and takes a delay of game penalty. Mike Smith has been bad. But I'm not here to lay it all on goaltending because goaltending is one aspect of a hockey game. Yes, goalies are the most important position in hockey because your team can live and die by goaltending. But the problem with goaltending is that goalies are a bit voodoo. And what I say by that is that goalies are determined by the team in front of them. And I can point to a good example of this. I'm just trying to think here. If your team is playing well, your goaltending can be really good. Now, I'm not saying that any person, actually, I can tell you a great example of this. 2 years ago, David Ayers has to come into a game for the Carolina Hurricanes as the emergency backup goalie. Now, David Ayers is probably better in goal than your average goalie, such as myself, but he's not a regular NHL goalie. He doesn't regularly face NHL shooters. He's not, and he's old. But because of how Carolina played that game, you could have put anybody in that net and they would have won. I could win that game being in Carolina's net because of how the Canes played. Now, obviously, it helps to have a good goaltender. The reason Tampa Bay is not winning the Stanley Cup with Curtis McElhinney or Brian Elliott in net. They are winning it with Andrei Vasilevsky, and Vasilevsky is a good goalie, but it also helps that Tampa plays a good game. Look at Montreal in last year's playoffs. Now, again, Carey Price, great goalie, fantastic goalie, one of the better goalies that's been in the league for the past decade. But Montreal played with a strategy that allowed Carey Price to do his job and not have to worry about leaky defense or anything like that. Now, am I saying that all of the problems on Edmonton are goaltending? No. But especially in the last 20 games, it has not been the goalie's fault, except for one. Because as I said, the last 20 games, the three goalies have combined for a record of 12, 6, and 2. And the six regulation losses have come from one goalie, and the two overtime losses have come from one goalie. And two of the three goalies are sporting a combined 938 save percentage, and one of them is sporting an 89 an 885. This team has a goaltending problem, but it's not just that. They have a general manager problem because Ken Holland is the general manager of this team. Now, I'm not I'm not here to say I'm an expert or I know everything because when Ken Holland was first hired, I was actually happy about it. I was actually um, uh, I was actually positive about it because I know Ken Holland's record with Detroit. Turns out that should have probably been the red flag because Ken Holland's tenure in Edmonton so far has been arguably worse than Chiarelli's. At least with Peter Chiarelli, we made the playoffs and actually won a round. Ken Holland has not done that for Edmonton. I think now had the Oilers made had the season continued regularly in 1920, I think it's safe to say that Edmonton could have won a round of playoff hockey. Last year there was a disaster playoff wise, but um, for me, Ken Holland has a problem on his hands. The narrative going into this season, and it's not just goaltending, and I'll explain why. The narrative going into this season was that if the Oilers don't make the second round, the season is a failure. There is no reason why a team with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl should not be making the playoffs or should not be at least pushing a second or third round. But the problem now is that not only are the Oilers not even projected, done, not even, not only does it look the Oilers can't even win a round of playoff hockey, it doesn't even look like they can make them. And for me, my position today, bail. Bail on the season. You've suffered too many losses recently. The team play has regressed to what it was under Dave Tippett, which is poor defensive play, poor goaltending, just a general I don't care attitude. I like Jay Woodcroft and I hope he stays, but the effect of his coaching has worn off, or at least his arrival. I still think the Oilers have been playing a little bit better under him, but especially tonight and against Chicago, the Oilers did not look like a team that played under a new coach. They looked like a team that was playing under their old coach. They wasted a month and a half of the season by deciding to not fire their head coach. And the only reason they kept them around a little bit longer than they should have is because they won a few games. But for the most part, they've wasted another season of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and they are trying to do whatever they can to salvage it. And unfortunately, that's going to cost us. So if I was general manager and I saw this team right now, I would bail on the season. I would start trading off whatever UFAs are expiring. The Oilers have a bunch of UFAs coming up. They have. I replied to the tweet. The Oilers UFAs at the end of the season, that is unrestricted free agency, are Evander Kane, Mikko Koskinen, Colton Sevier, Brad Malone, Chris Russell, Josh Archibald, and Kyle Turris. Every single one of those guys are replaceable. Maybe you can keep Kane around a little bit longer, but I wouldn't trust Ken Holland to get that deal done. Now, that's just one problem. The second problem is that there are a bunch of extra players who have extra years left on their deal, and they include Tyson Barrie, Zach Cassian, Slater Cuckoo, Devin Shore, and Mike Smith. So, one of our goalies is a UFA, and that's Mikko Koskinen. If the Oilers had the money, I would not be opposed to bringing Mikko back next year and running a Mikko Koskinen and Stuart Skinner tandem because Stuart Skinner is ready for full-time NHL backup duties. But we already have money tied up in Mike Smith, and you're not going to send Stuart Skinner down for another conditioning stint. So unfortunately, because of lack of money and the fact that Peter Shirley kind of signed that deal to begin with, I think Mikko Koskinen is gone. Evander Kane, I don't think he's going to want to stick around. I don't know what other kind of teams are going to want to have his services, but I think Evander Kane is gone. Colton Sevier can do without. He's gone. Brad Malone, bye. If you're going to sign him to a AHL deal. Chris Russell, I like the guy. Good, hard guy, but I mean, he's barely played this season. I think he's done. Bye. Josh Archibald, the whole unvax thing, dude, you're an idiot. I don't like you. Bye. And Kyle Turris, nothing but a disaster since coming here. I'm sure he's a good guy. I'm sure he's good off the ice. I'm sure he's been putting in the work when he's not playing, but he has been terrible. Bye. Now, those are the UFAs. I would say only one of those UFAs is coming back, and that's probably and even then, there's no guarantee that an Evander Kane's are going to come back. So as it stands right now, in my opinion, all of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all 7 of those guys gone. Now you have the players with extra years on their deals that don't need to have extra years on their deals. Tyson Barrie. Well, why was Tyson Barrie re-signed? Not only was he re-signed, but re-signed for so long. Well, it's because Ken Holland was an idiot and decided to trade Ethan Bear to the Carolina Hurricanes for Warren Foegele, who, by the way, has done fuck all since coming. Another bottom six forward that's useless. And I'm sure, and I know Warren's looked good and he's tried, and he's scored a couple goals, but he's looked terrible pretty much all season. So, yeah, the reason we kept Tyson Barrie around Well, actually, no. The other reason we kept Tyson Berry around was because Adam Larson decided to leave Edmonton for Seattle. Now, that is not something I hold against Ken Holland. It was a free agent decision on Adam Larson's part, and I honestly don't blame the guy. The guy has been nothing short of a lightning rod since coming to Edmonton because of who he was traded for, and he was, I think, unfairly treated by Edmonton. When he was on his game, he was one of Edmonton's better defenders. The problem was with him leaving for Seattle and then Ken Holland deciding to trade Ethan Bear, the defense was in shambles. And so Tyson Berry kind of got a contract extension out of just pure desperation from Ken Holland. So Tyson Berry was a contract that was handed out of desperation, and he's gonna basically demand more money and more pay because he has all the cards. So Tyson Berry, and you know what? Berry's good offensively. Defensively, he's a train wreck, and I honestly could have done without him for this season. But as I said, because of the situation with Larson and the fact that Ken Holland was an idiot and decided to trade Ethan Bear for no fucking reason, Tyson Berry was given a contract for free, essentially, out of desperation. Zach Cassian, useless. I like Zach. I liked what he brought to the team for the most part, especially in the 16-17 playoffs. But ever since he got that contract, it's been clear he's not playing for a spot on the team, and it doesn't matter because he's getting paid his money, right? So Zach Cassian I could do without, but I don't think anyone's going to take Zach's contract. He is not the best player. Um, he can play with skilled people. We've seen this. He can play with McDavid. We saw him play with the Sedin twins, but he's the kind of guy that right now is more or less a physical presence on your team, and that's something that Edmonton sorely misses. And it sucks that he's not more heavily invested. Slater Cuckoo, a decent defender, more for depth than anything else. You're not going to put him in your regular lineup, and he's barely played for this team. I haven't heard his name in. I don't think I've heard his name at all in the last 20 games. So he was not. He was given. He's more for depth. I don't mind if he sticks around. He's a good guy if you want to put him in as a replacement for an injury, but he shouldn't be in your regular lineup 24/7. Devon Shore, useless. Yeah, he was touted as a penalty killing forward. I believe we claimed him off waivers. Useless, 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 useless. Get him off the team. I do not know. I don't know what Dave Tippett saw in him, and I'm 90% sure Ken Holland is telling Jay Woodcroft just to play him because he needs to somehow legitimize the contract he handed out. Devon Shore is useless. I don't know if we can get rid of it, get anything for him. And finally, there's Mike Smith, who unfortunately I don't know what to do with this guy. He's 39 years old. He's going to be 40 in a couple weeks. He's injury prone. He is not good right now this season. And unfortunately, we gave him an extra year because Ken Holland doesn't like goalies for some reason. We had 2 years in a row where Ken Holland had an opportunity to upgrade the goaltending. Last year, he had the opportunity to sign a marquee free agent in Jacob Markstrom, and he scares Markstrom away. And not only does Markstrom not sign with Edmonton, he signs with fucking Calgary. So congratulations, Ken. Not only did you scare away the top goalie in last year's or two free agency market 2 years ago, but you scared him away so much he decided to sign with your divisional and your provincial rival. Last year, a number of goalies were available. Frederick Anderson, Darcy Kemper were two names that I thought Edmonton could go after. Well, Anderson signs in Carolina. He's not going to come anywhere near Edmonton. He's already had enough of one bad Canadian market. He certainly doesn't need to go to another one. So then the interest fell to Darcy Kemper, but Ken Holland didn't want to make the deal good enough, so Colorado instead decided to trade with Arizona, and so 2 years in a row, two off seasons in a row, Ken Holland has had the opportunity to fix the goaltending, and he has done fuck all with it. He has done squat because this is a guy. Um, uh, I just It's his bed, and he made it. And this is the mess he finds himself in. He needs to bail. I am sorry. He needs to bail on the season. He needs to bail on. He needs to bail on the year. And he needs to not do anything stupid. This guy, I can see it already. This guy is going to somehow think that acquiring Ben Sherratt or um, some other defender, and like I don't know what he's gonna do, and I know he's gonna do something stupid because he has no other options left. Again, like I said, if he wanted, he should bail on the season. He needs to bail. This season is over. There's nothing to fight for. If they make the playoffs, they're going to get embarrassed in the first round. And at that point, you might as well not even make it. In my opinion, if you make the playoffs and you lose in 4 or 5 games, why were you even there to begin with? You wasted your time. You wasted your season, your players' time. You wasted your fans' time. If you go 6 or 7 games, all right, at least you prove that you can be there. But the Oilers are going to get bounced in 4 or 5 games if they make the playoffs. And at that point, that is not good enough. That is not good enough. Making the playoffs is simply not good enough anymore. This organization is a joke. Ken Holland has been a fucking train wreck as GM. An absolute nightmare. So, anyway, those are my thoughts. I didn't even get through everything I wanted, but I'm already pushing half an hour on this. So, to summarize, Mike Smith, terrible. Goaltending has been decent for Edmonton, and when Mike Smith isn't in net, it's not the team in front of him. The stats have proven it. And Ken Holland has work to do. And he needs to start making some trades. He needs to see what he can get for the players that are UFAs. And if that means you have to trade Mikko Koskinen, the season is over. You are not making the playoffs. Bail is my advice. If anyone from Oilers management just happens to come across this video, bail on the season. Or better yet, make me a fucking president of hockey ops and I'll clean house. I'll make this team respectable again. Because the problem with this team is they're too busy living in the fucking past. When they fired Peter Chiarelli, they had an opportunity to hire a forward-thinking GM. And what do? Oh, not only do they not hire a forward-thinking GM, but as soon as Ken Holland becomes available, oh, you are perfect for the team. It's the same smart hockey man attitude that has plagued this team for years, which is we're smarter than everyone else because we have cups. We have cups, therefore we know what it takes to win. Yeah, you have cups as players. There is a big difference between playing the game and managing the game. And don't get me wrong, some players have done well at that. Look at Craig Berube or Jim Rutherford or uh, Sakic or Brindamore. Some players have a knack for being able to manage a team after they played the game. But that's not what Ken Holland is. And I'm aware that Ken Holland used to be a goaltender for the Hartford Whalers. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't help. Anyway, the thing I'm trying to look, my advice: bail on the season. Bail, get what you can for the guys whose contracts are coming up to the end. Restart. The McDavid and Draisaitl era in Edmonton is over. That's it. That's it. We had our window. We had our shot. It's closed. If you can't make the playoffs with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, you should be fired. And that goes for Bob Nicholson too. Bob Nicholson has done fuck all. Fuck all. He comes in here with this attitude of, oh, I'm from Hockey Canada. I know what I'm doing. But you don't. Because if you did, you would have fired the general manager after last year's playoff debacle versus Winnipeg. You would have fired the head coach during the 2-11 or 2-13-2 slide in December and January. And you would have done your due diligence like you promised and hired a competent GM and not just the guy who got fired from Detroit because he's done the exact same thing to them that he's doing to Edmonton right now. Bail on the season, get whatever draft picks you get, retool the roster, and fire these incompetent sacks of shit and start building a winning team again. And don't you dare fire Jay Woodcroft. He is not to blame for this. He came in way too late to make an impact. He is making an impact, but he's not going to make enough of an impact that your season is going to magically turn around. And don't you dare for a second bail on him too. I don't want to see, and I know exactly what's going to happen. We are all predicting this. We're just waiting for the announcement. The Oilers are going to finish the season with Jade Woodcroft, and who knows how it's going to go. I think so far it's going pretty good, but for the most part, we don't expect much out of Jade Woodcroft, but we hope he sticks around because we like what he's done with the Bakersfield Condors, and we know he's going to be a good NHL head coach. But here's what's going to happen: the season's going to end. The Oilers are going to go, "Gee, Jay, you were brought in to take the team to the playoffs. You didn't do that, so you failed. So you're gone." And they're gonna bring in Mike fucking Babcock because that's been rumored for a couple of weeks now. Like, what? Gotta hire your old buddies, right, Ken? This team is a joke. It is a joke. It is a disaster. And this is the most unprofessional run sport team in the history of sports. And it all started when Daryl Cates was made owner. We're going to the very top with this one. Fire the GM, fire the president of hockey ops, which is Bob Nicholson, and start getting rid of your owner. The city of Edmonton needs to step in, or the NHL needs to step in, or someone needs to step in and tell Cates to either start working with this team to make them good again, or step aside and let someone else do the job because he sure as shit ain't doing it. I am sick and tired of this guy treating the Edmonton Oilers like a country club because that's exactly what they've been under him. He hires the old Oilers because, oh, well, they're the old Oilers. They should know a thing or two. Oh, and they're my buddies. I get to hang out with them. They play the Flames on Monday, next game, and yeah, we're 2-0 under against Calgary this year. But who knows what kind of that's gonna? Who knows what's gonna happen on Monday? Bail on the season. My final thought. Bail on the season, and that's it. I'll talk to you guys again after the Calgary game, and we'll see where we're at.